Can our mother give birth in your cabin?" The snow fell heavy across the high plains, muffling every sound except the crunch of boots and the distant howls of coyotes. Ethan McGraw, a towering rancher with shoulders as broad as the cabin doorframe he ducked under, had just finished stacking the last of the firewood. Winter had come earlier than usual, biting harder than he expected, and though he had plenty of beef smoked and hides tanned, he had not expected visitors, not in weather like this. But visitors came. 3 figures struggled through the drifting snow toward his cabin. 2 young Comanche girls, no older than 15 or 16, half carrying and half dragging a woman whose swollen belly strained against her deerskin dress. Ethan's heart jolted. He threw on his coat and strode through the snow. "Help us," the older girl gasped, her braids dusted with frost. "Our mother, baby's coming. We saw smoke from your chimney." The rancher's eyes swept over them. He could see their desperation, the mother's pallor, the way she groaned and clutched her belly. Without hesitation, his deep voice rumbled, "Get in." Inside, the warmth of the fire wrapped around them. Ethan carried the woman himself, his massive arms gentle as he laid her on the cot by the hearth. The girls huddled close, their dark eyes wide with worry. "What's your name, girl?" he asked the elder. "Naomi," she whispered. "This is my sister, Tiva. Our mother is Ayoka." Ethan nodded. "Naomi, Tiva, you keep that fire strong. Your mama's gonna need all the warmth she can get." The girls obeyed instantly, feeding kindling into the flames while Ethan rummaged through the shelves. His hands were rough from years of rope and rain, but he knew enough about birthing. Cattle, horses, even helped a neighbor's wife once when no midwife could come. Life on the frontier made every man into more than he thought he could be. Ayoka moaned, her face tightening with pain. Ethan knelt beside her, speaking low and steady. "Breathe deep now. You're safe here." Hours passed with the storm clawing at the windows. The girls dozed against each other, waking at each cry from their mother. Ethan worked tirelessly, warming water, wiping sweat from Ayoka's brow, bracing her strong back when the waves of pain overtook her. When at last the child's cry split the night, Naomi and Tiva leapt up, tears of relief shining. "It's a boy," Ethan said, holding the squirming infant with surprising gentleness. He wrapped the baby in a clean cloth and handed him to his mother, who wept and whispered prayers in her native tongue. But Ethan noticed the strain in her breathing, the weakness in her hands as she clutched her son. She was not well. For 2 days, Ayoka drifted in and out of fever. Ethan never left her side, nursing her as best he could with broth and herbs he had on hand. Naomi and Tiva clung to their mother, but it was clear to Ethan what the woman already knew. Her strength was fading. On the 3rd morning, Ayoka took Ethan's hand, her grip weak but steady. "You, tall man," she whispered, her voice broken by both English and her own tongue. "Take care of my girls. Take care of my son." Ethan's chest tightened. He wasn't a man who gave his word lightly. He'd lost his own family years back to fever, wife, unborn child, everything gone in one cruel season. He'd built his cabin alone, worked his ranch alone, lived alone. But now 3 pairs of eyes looked at him with hope, fear, and desperate need. "I'll keep them," he said finally, voice rough as gravel. "They'll be mine to protect. No harm will ever touch them here." Ayoka smiled faintly, kissed her newborn's brow, and slipped into the stillness that only death brings. Naomi wailed softly, and Tiva buried her face against Ethan's chest. He stood there, a giant of a man holding 2 trembling girls and a newborn boy, while the storm outside calmed into silence. The weeks that followed tested every bit of Ethan's strength and heart. He dug a grave on the hill behind the cabin, the earth hard with frost. The girl stood beside him, holding the baby close, as he lowered their mother to rest beneath the lone pine tree. Each day he taught them small tasks of survival: how to gather wood, how to mend clothes, how to stretch supplies. Naomi, though young, carried herself like a mother, taking to the baby with fierce devotion. Tiva followed Ethan like a shadow, watching his every move, her eyes slowly shifting from fear to trust. The baby, whom Naomi named Chenoa, meaning dove, grew stronger, his cries filling the cabin with a strange new warmth Ethan hadn't heard in years. One night, as the wind rattled the shutters, Naomi spoke. "You could have sent us away," she said, staring at the fire. "Others would have. We are Comanche. You are not." Ethan's jaw worked as he considered his answer. Finally, he spoke. "Blood don't matter when someone's cold, hungry, and hettin'. Your mama asked me to keep you. That's what I'll do." Naomi's eyes glistened. She whispered, "Then you are our father now." Ethan felt something break open inside him, something he thought was gone forever. Spring thaw came slowly. The snow melted, rivers swelled, and grass pushed green through the hard ground. The cabin, once a place of loneliness, now rang with laughter, cries, and chatter. Ethan built a cradle for Chenoa, carved with care despite his clumsy hands. He showed Naomi how to saddle a horse, taught Tiva how to shoot a bow he'd kept from trade years back. They were no longer just guests in his cabin, they were family. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the horizon, Naomi stood beside him at the fence-line. "You gave us more than shelter," she said softly. "You gave us life." Ethan looked down at her, then at the baby in her arms, and then toward the grave on the hill where the pine tree swayed. "No," he said, his deep voice steady. "You gave me life. I was just waitin' for it to find me again." From that day, the rancher who had once lived in silence was no longer alone. He was father, protector, and, though he would never claim it out loud, the answer to a dying mother's final prayer. And when folks in the nearest town asked about the strange family at the McGraw cabin, Ethan would simply say, "They're mine." That's all anyone needs to know.